All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Sorry, it's been a while since my last video. A lot of reasons for that. But anyway, we're back today and we're talking about the Pixel 10 Pro. That's right. It's Google's latest phone. It's been out for, I don't know, a few weeks now. I've been using it for a while, pretty much ever since it came out. And I just wanted to talk about it. Wanted to share my thoughts, try to be as honest and just forthright about my personal experience with the Pixel 10. And more importantly, do I think it's something you should spend your money on? So let's talk about it. From a hardware standpoint, as I mentioned kind of in my hands-on, it's the same as the Pixel 9. If you had a Pixel 9 or Pixel 9 Pro, same design here. Nothing really changed there as far as from a design standpoint. The surf bar thing is still here for better or worse. But again, it's a Pixel. You know it's a Pixel. Everybody sees it. They know it's a Pixel. So it definitely has its own sort of unique design language, and I'm here for it. I would much rather companies try to make a statement and try to do something different than just throw cameras at a phone and just place them wherever. So I'm glad that it's something different. It's something unusual. It's something distinctive, right? So I like that. It feels great. The stainless steel edges on the side and the matte glass back is really, really comfortable to hold. I've had no issues at all holding it. It just really feels fantastic. I got the smaller Pro version, not the Pro XL. That's just me personally. I prefer smaller phones anyway. I have smaller hands. I don't like giant phones sticking in my pocket, so I got this smaller version. But I really like it. As with last year, there aren't too many differences between the 10 Pro and the 10 Pro XL. So with the 10 Pro XL, you get slightly faster wireless charging and wired charging. But that's about it. And I'll correct myself if I'm wrong and make some comments and make some notes on if there's any other differences other than like the size and things like that. But overall, kind of my thoughts on the Pixel. From a design standpoint, I really, really like it. I think it's great. This moonstone color, which is sort of like a grayish blue, is absolutely gorgeous. There's also a jade version, which is kind of like a soft green hue, which I think is really cool. I do wish had more of like the indigo version on the regular Pixel 10, which I think is awesome. But hey, this is still really cool. It's much better than just black and white and just regular boring colors. Now, there's kind of, so that's the design. Now, we need to talk about hardware for a little bit, but it's hard to really kind of talk about this conversation and have this discussion about hardware without kind of leading with this idea that, and this is maybe a hot take, but specs don't matter, okay? Now, there's a big caveat there, right? Because if you're somebody who absolutely needs the latest and greatest bleeding edge, faster than all fast, beefiest of the beefy phones, and you do everything, or you're a content creator, you're a gamer or something like that, then there are phones for you and there are phones for that. But for the vast majority of us, I'm a content creator, I'm a writer, I'm a gamer, I do all those things. So for the vast majority of us, specs in a phone have not really mattered for a long time, for several years now. And what I mean by that is the overall user experience these days is not defined by the specs. The specifications, the actual nuts and bolts of the phone itself rarely tell the story of what it's like to use for a phone. And this is especially true for the non-nerds, right? The regular people out there, right? The specs don't matter. So yes, the Tensor G5 is not as powerful as the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 4, okay? And it won't be as powerful as the 8 Elite Gen 5 that's coming. But it also doesn't matter, right? At least to me personally. So the same is true for the rest of the hardware, for RAM and the Tensor G5 is getting a lot of flack for it. Oh, it's not as powerful, all this kind of stuff. And again, it doesn't matter to me, right? It is faster than the Tensor G4, okay? There are some noticeable gains. I think in some cases, the GPU is almost 30% faster. So you will notice a day-to-day difference between the Tensor G4 Pixel 9 Pro and the Tensor G5 that's in the Pixel 10 Pro. But it's not huge, okay? It's not a massive generational leap. And again, it doesn't matter, okay? And that's for a couple reasons. One, Google isn't trying to sell this phone to people who have a Pixel 9 Pro. They're trying to sell this to people who have a Pixel 7 or a Pixel 6 or a Samsung or an Apple iPhone, all right? That's who they're trying to sell this phone to, okay? So coming from the Pixel 9 Pro on the Tensor G4 on the 9 Pro, it's not that big of a difference. But again, it doesn't really matter, okay? So for the actual nuts and bolts of the phone, you know, I get so frustrated when the tech nerds on Reddit and on all the comments just deride these phones and like, oh, Google should not be, you know, putting this kind of processor. Okay, number one, companies don't make phones for tech nerds. They don't make phones for you and me. We are not the target market. We're not the people that they care about whether or not we buy their phone. They don't. I'm sorry. They care about the 99% of the population that might buy their phone that actually gives them enough revenue to keep making more phones, right? Like, they don't care if us tech nerds buy a phone. So they're not trying to target us, right? So we need to stop getting so upset about the Tensor G5 and about comparing numbers and all that stuff. Because again, it doesn't matter. Right? At the end of the day, that experience doesn't matter. If you're somebody who needs that in your phone, those phones exist, but it's not the Pixel 10 Pro. And I think Apple is actually a really good indicator of this because Apple designed its silicon in-house, right? The A series processors to specifically match the software that they were designing, right? They designed those together in tandem to provide the user with a specific experience. And so Google's trying to do the same thing with their Tensor chips, right? When the first one came out with the Pixel 4, 5 years ago, or I guess the Pixel 5, excuse me, whatever it was, whatever the original Tensor chip phone that came out in, Google was trying to do the same thing. I'm sure there was a cost element involved, right? Because Qualcomm can charge whatever it wants for the Snapdragon processors because there's really no other alternative. MediaTek's got some good stuff, but it still can't match Qualcomm. So anyway, Qualcomm can charge what they want. So I'm sure that was part of it. But ultimately, Google wanted its phones to provide the experience that Google wanted for its users, for its customers. Okay, and so that's the whole point of the Tensor chip. And with the Tensor G5, that's more prevalent than ever, especially with, it started with the 4 and all the AI stuff, right? Like, Google has very specific things that they want to be able to do with their AI and their software that either wasn't possible on the Snapdragon or they wanted to have greater control over, right? So they designed their silicon specifically to be able to provide its users with the features they want. And that's not the most powerful, beefiest, fastest, slickest experience around, right? It's all the AI stuff. They want their Pixel experience to be very unique and to be very specific for the users and provide them certain features that other phones don't have. And so that's why they designed the Tensors to do that. And so the Tensor G5 does that. There's a lot of AI features, which I'll get to in just a minute. But overall, basically from a spec standpoint, like I was saying, the Tensor G5 doesn't bother me that it's not as fast or as powerful as the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 4 or the forthcoming Gen 5 or even the A19. Like, it doesn't bother me, okay? My experience using the phone day to day, it's still been extremely fast. It's been extremely fluid. And more importantly, it's given me those Pixel software features that I know and love. There's when I was in my hands-on video, I said I was so glad to be back on a Pixel, and it's because of the software. It's not because of the hardware. It's because it does things that other phones can't do, and the Tensor G5 is the reason it can do those things. So that's the end of my rant about the specs. But it does have the G5. You can get I think it's 12 gigs of RAM. It might be 16 in the 10 Pros. I'm not entirely sure. Again, it doesn't really matter, but I will list the full specs down below as far as RAM and storage. So you can get up to, I believe you can get up to 512 gigabytes of storage in the 10 Pro and the 10 Pro XL. The 10 Pro Fold can get up to a terabyte of storage, which is pretty great. So there's plenty of storage. Mine comes with 256, and again, it hasn't been an issue for me because I've got all my stuff in the cloud anyway with Google Photos and all my streaming and all that stuff, so it doesn't bother me. The best and the most innovative hardware design and design change with the Pixel 10 Pro is MagSafe. Google calls it Pixel Snap, but it's literally MagSafe for Android. It's got the magnets back here where I can magnetically attach any sort of compatible accessories. And it does work with MagSafe. It works with all the MagSafe stuff that I have. And so I think that is by far and away the best thing about the Pixel 10 Pro from a hardware standpoint. right? Like it finally does that. We've been wanting that for years because that was actually a truly innovative thing to come to smartphones. And it's probably the last truly innovative thing that came to phones in a long time was MagSafe. It is something as simple as putting a magnet in a phone. But it's so helpful. It's so convenient. It provides so much convenience for us. And it actually does change the way I use my phone in some cases. Now, let's talk about the software. So as I was mentioning, the G5 and the other specs of the phone specifically enable all the Pixel software. And most of it's all the same things you know and love from previous Pixels. My personal favorite is the call screening. So I get so many scam calls and spam calls, and it's so annoying. But they don't come through on my Pixel. I don't even get notified that they're there. Google is so smart, the Pixel is so smart that it can detect that it's a scam or a spam call, and it automatically sends it to voicemail and just blocks the number. I don't even get notified of it. It's so smart that it happens that way. But it's not just the call screening. I can intelligently go through the menus and show me the menu options without me having to sit there and listen to all those things. So it's really cool. If you've not used a Pixel before, some of those features alone might be enough to persuade you from a different Android phone, just because it's so incredibly nice not getting 1.5 million phone calls every day from spam numbers and scam numbers. And Google can tell who is calling me, especially if it's a business, and knows and can respond intelligently to what I need, right? As I mentioned in my hands-on video, the AI features that are in the Pixel 10 Pro is kind of the smartest iteration of AI features that I've seen yet. The calling software being one of them. Magic Q is another one that they announced with the Pixel 10 Pro. It's specific to the 10 Pro, or their 10 series. And it's one of those, it's been kind of hit or miss. So the idea is that in a text message, once you set up the phone and give it all access to everything, Google can go through all the information in your phone and it can surface things for you that are important that you need to know, whether it's a text message or even a phone call. Is like, hey, you're texting this person about a flight you have coming up. Here's the flight information if you need it, right? And it pulls that from your email and from in your calendar and other things. In execution, it's been kind of hit or miss for me. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes it pulls up irrelevant information. But if they can actually get it to work correctly every time, that is incredibly efficient, because I can't tell you how many times I've been on a phone call with my mom or with somebody and there's a piece of information that we're talking about something and I can't remember specifically what we said. It can pull up that email conversation. It can pull up that text conversation so I can look at it right there and say, oh, that's what we were talking about. Here it is. So that's useful. There's a bunch of other AI features in there. There's a lot carried over from the Pixel 9, obviously. Magic Q is one of the new ones. Camera coaching, I think is what they call it, where is actually pretty cool. And this is something I kind of have asked for, or kind of hoped, because I don't consider myself a photographer in any stretch of the imagination. But where I could see AI actually being useful is when I'm trying to take a picture, it can tell me, it's like, oh, hey, this is slightly out of frame. Why don't you maybe move over a little bit? Or, hey, there's some clouds over there in the background. Maybe that might be a good backdrop. You could try to move a little bit to get those in the background. So it can kind of, and even can suggest different settings for how you should take the photo. I think it's kind of cool. I've used it a little bit, and it seems to work pretty good. It seems to be a pretty nice feature that's helpful. Again, I'm not going to try to claim that I'm a big photographer, but it is nice to have something like it. It's a instance where AI features could be actually useful, where the concept is really cool, and if they execute it well, and if it continues to work well, it could be really cool. So that's the software. The cameras, Google has led the way in camera quality for several years, and Samsung and Apple and others have gotten pretty close. And so I would say it's closer now than ever, but I would still say the cameras from the 10 Pro are probably some of the best I've taken in the smartphone. They're great. The cameras are absolutely phenomenal, as they always are. Another AI feature that is really interesting, that is really useful, is they call it AI Super Res Zoom or something like that, where you zoom into a photo, right? And normally when you zoom in past 10x, it gets really, really bad. Even with the nice telephoto in here, you zoom in and it gets really, really bad. Well, Google is using AI to basically sharpen that image to provide you a better picture, a better photo. And to echo MKBHD, it's almost like, well, what is a photo, right? Because if you're looking at it, it looks really sharp and clear. a lot of those pixels don't actually exist. Google created them. Google generated them. But it does work, and it works really well. It provides a better zoom than probably anything else you'll see beyond the the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra or something like that, right? So I like it. I'm not going to get too heavy and deep into the camera quality and specs because I'm not a photographer. I'm not that channel. But suffice to say, for all the pictures I take, it's fantastic. Even if you're an amateur photographer, you just like capturing moments throughout your life, like it is fantastic. It's going to do really, really well. The one area Google still continues to struggle a little bit is video. Apple is still hands down the king of mobile video. So if you do take a lot of videos, or if you like filming your kids at practice or plays or whatever, like Google's not really going to do it for you. But if every now and then you need a video of stuff, then that's great. Now, again, just normal, regular videos are going to be fine. I'm talking about like if you need to zoom in or you need to change cameras in the middle of the video, things are going to fall apart if you push it too hard. But if you use it just a regular everyday camera, it's going to be fine. So, do I think the Pixel 10 Pro is a good phone? Yeah, I think it's probably the best Android phone on the market right now. I would liken it better than the Samsungs. And that's just me personally. I like the experience better. It's cleaner. The software is so much cleaner. It doesn't get bogged down with all the extra. It doesn't have all the extra Samsung crap. The AI features that are in here are genuinely useful. Most of them, not all of them. Obviously, there's a lot of crappy ones. But for the most part, the experience that you're getting as a user is I think one of the best implementations of Android you can find. So if you're looking for a phone with great hardware, and Google has promised 7 years of software updates, I'm still really curious how that's going to play out in real life because Google's only been promising it for a couple of generations now. So once we actually start getting to 6 and 7 years down the road, I'm really curious to see how those phones hold up 7 years later. But if you want 7 years of software updates, you got it with the Pixel 10 Pro. So that's kind of my general thoughts, my general feelings about the Pixel 10 Pro. If there's other things you want me to talk about or test out or look at, let me know in the comments, message me, and I'll try to test those and cover those. But ultimately, I think it's a great phone. I think if you like Pixel, if you like smart features, if you like interesting uses of AI, then I think the Pixel 10 Pro is going to be great for you. So that's it for this video. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.